So what I'm going to do is just dive into it, and I want to start just by telling you a little bit about Ivy and our ability to how we build out features. So as those of you that have been on Ivy for a while maybe know, our product team is in direct contact with our designers, and the #1 funnel for product feedback and product requests is via our support team. We're really lucky. We have an incredible support channel, and anything that you guys share with our support team, feedback requests, goes directly to our product team. So room boards was obviously a missing piece of the puzzle. You know, the ideation, creation phase that previously was not super intuitive to do in Ivy. So this version of room boards is what was just released less than 2 weeks ago, and it is the first part of the release. What that means is this is room boards right now, but it will build out additional functionality. You know, and we have ideas of what that functionality will be based on our conversations with our designers. However, we are also looking for additional feedback. So feel free to submit that form, your feedback on what you want to see, how you're using it, and how it can be improved, because we really want to make this a tool that will help streamline your processes, and your feedback is integral. So take advantage of that, but just know that this is literally the first version of room boards, and it will only continue to improve from here. So with that, I want to dive into room boards. The first place that I'm going to start is actually not on the project level, but I'm going to click on the top right-hand corner over here into my account. And the reason why I'm going into my account is because I want to bring you to the settings tab. The settings tab is visible only to the account admin. So if you are the admin, you will see the settings tab. If you are not, you will not see this tab. But the reason why I want to bring you here is because we have a couple of default account settings that apply across your entire account. And one of them, as you can see over here in the default project email section, is the room board email. And this room board email is a default email that you can set across your entire account as to the message that will send out when you send a room board to a client. So you can set this as a default for your entire account. We have a default in place right now, but this is where you would, you know, the first thing that you might want to do is just make a default for the account level going forward. But with that, I'm going to dive into the project. So I'm going to go into my Fisher Penthouse project, and I'm going to go into edit project mode, because there are a couple of things that I want to show you here on how to set up for room boards. And you can do this when you're creating a new project in Ivy, but because I already have an existing project, I'm simply diving into my existing project. And because we just talked about the account settings and the room board email on an account level, I'm going to scroll down here to my edit project page, and you'll see I'm simply going to click on the additional settings tab down here, because those same account settings emails that are defaulted across your entire account can be tailored on the project level as well. So you'll see right over here, room board email for your project specifically. We're in the Fisher Penthouse project. So if you have a separate agreement, different terms, different terminology that you want to use with an individual client or project, you can simply set that over here. One important thing to note, if you update the account settings and you already have existing projects, the updated account settings will not apply to those existing projects. So you'll have to update it on the project level. At this point, project overrides account. Okay, so that's all I want to show you. The additional settings tab was for this room board email. However, what I also would like to show you is the project details page, because there are a few different places that you can create rooms to use for room boards in your project. And I assume that most, upon project creation, would first start with room creation right over here where it says rooms. So this is the first place that you can add rooms to your project. And any room that you create will create a corresponding, albeit blank, room board to start. So I'm going to start right over here. I'm going to create a living room and click enter. I will also create a master bedroom and maybe even a kitchen. Okay, so that's the first place that you can create rooms. I'll actually take kitchen out so I could show you what that will look like elsewhere. And now I'm going to click save. Now what I can expect to see are my living room and master bedroom room boards blank when I click into the room boards tab. Room boards are a project-based function. So you can only create them within the means of a specific project that you're working on. So you'll see right over here, I have living room and I have master bedroom. And I want to show you one more place where you can create a room on this screen is the Add New Room tab right over here on the right-hand side. By clicking on it, you'll see that I have the ability to upload a cover image. I'm simply going to upload one from my desktop, add a title, set a budget, and add a description. Now, this description currently is not client facing. I mean, it eventually will be, but at this time, it is not shown to the client. Soon, though, it will be. So you'll see right over here, I have my kitchen. Just because I'm a visual person, I'm going to edit this room right over here by clicking on the 3 dots and clicking edit room details. And here I'm going to add a image, a cover image for this room, set my budget, and I can even add a description right here. And you'll see I'm going to do the same thing for my living room. Again, visual person, I like what it looks like with the images attached here. And I actually don't have my living room one, so let's actually call this kids bedroom, and I'll change the title. Perfect. So what's next on room boards? Well, a couple of things. What I will do next is go directly into one of my rooms and click into it. You'll see that I have no items associated with this room. If you already have existing projects in Ivy that have rooms allocated to items, what you'll see is that those room boards were automatically created for you. No matter where those items are in your process, we created those rooms for you just by the nature of having a room assignment in Ivy. In this case, I'm starting completely fresh. So the first thing I'd like to do is add items, and I can do so by clicking to the right over here. And I'm going to start with products and services. So what pulls up over here is my product library. And I'm going to filter through this and select a couple of different items that I have in mind for this project. I can obviously search through here with keywords. If I'm looking for a sofa, I can see the different sofas or accessories for sofas that I have in here. And let me go ahead and add perhaps a bed. And I'll add that right over here, and maybe an accessory pillow. What you also have the ability to do is add services at this time. So I'm in my product and services library. If I want to add labor, installation, any sort of service that I'm going to be billing to my client, I can do so right over here. And in this case, you can see that I even have a cover image associated with my service by default. Now, one thing that you can also add are attachments. If you have any inspiration images, if you have a floor plan or a space plan that you want to include, a rendering, you can add the attachment here. And what's great about the attachments are that they are actually visual attachments. So you'll be able to show, rather than showing the name of an attachment as a PDF document, you can actually show the content of the attachment in the room board itself. By default, attachments are set to hidden, just in case you don't actually want that to be a client-facing detail, but you want to store it within the room board itself. Another default that you should know about is that services, while they are default shown to your client, and you can tell because on the attachment there's a kind of I slash, so it's not shown. For services, they are by default shown, but if you only want to keep it in the room to calculate budget, but you don't want to give your client the ability to decline a service that is mandatory, you can always hide it, and then it won't be shown to your client. So that's just a little tidbit about the service aspect of it. Well, let's go ahead and see a couple of the different functionalities that we can do now that we've added items to our master bedroom. So a couple of things. The first is that you can drag and drop simply by clicking on the item and dragging it into a separate order. So in this case, I can do it by bulky items first, for example, down to accessories. But let's say I actually want to change some details about this item. Perhaps when I clipped it from my product library, my knowledge of what the item actually entailed is limited, or I've since gotten a deeper discount with my vendor and I want to change my markup. Whatever it is, I'm simply going to click on the item. And you'll see the 360 pop-up appear in front of my eyes. This gives me the ability to edit any details about this item before I even present it to my client and before I add it to any documents. So let's say, for example, the top field in this 360 pop-up is the client title versus the product title. The client title is meant to be an alias for you. So one thing that I hear repeatedly from designers is that they are constantly shopped in today's e-commerce Google world by their clients. And one way that Ivy tries to prevent that is by giving you the ability to set an alias for this item so that it's not as easy for your client to Google the exact product name and put it into Google and find either a cheaper version or a different version. So what I like to call this is storage bed for living room or for master bedroom. This is specific to this project now. What you'll notice is the product title didn't change. The product title is what will carry on to the vendor facing purchase order. You'll also see all of the relevant information, the vendor, the client description. Let's say we want this to simply say storage bed, same thing, it's client facing. You determine what your client sees and doesn't see. And let's say you need to change the cost or the markup for any reason, you can do so right over here. Okay, so you can do that for every single item. Now I want to see, I'm actually not sure if I have an example here of an item with multiple images. So let me add an item that I know has multiple images because I'd like to show you one thing that you can do. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to drag and drop it, click on the item, and just like you see the client title, product title, you can change all those details if you need to. But one thing that you could do about the image is you can also change the cover image of this item. So let's say I want to give my client a little bit more context as to what it'll look like on the bed. All I did was click the pencil button and I can now select make cover. So this is now the cover image for this specific item. And I'm going to save it. And one last place that I want to show you on that pop-up, we're talking about all the different places where you can add rooms on the project level in the room board tab. You can also add rooms directly from this pop-up. As you'll see in the bottom right-hand corner, it says room, master bedroom. I can simply click plus add a room, and add a different room allocation if I need to. But those are a couple of the different places where you can add rooms. Okay? So with that, right now we have our room board. We have a bunch of different items, products, services, some attachments hidden. And you can show over here different filtered views. So it might be easier for you to just take a look at it, clean it up if you need to. So by default, it shows all, but you have the ability to also show only products. And as you saw, the attachment and the service that I had added just disappeared. You can see only services, or again, all. And you can also default to a different status. So right now I'm showing all statuses. However, these items don't exist on any document yet. So they haven't necessarily been approved by our client. We haven't even sent it to them. They aren't in progress because they're not on a document. So their status is currently pending. They're existing in this limbo state in the project. So you'll see even over here, if I just change it to pending, all of my items remained. And we'll take a look at what this looks like a little bit later after we go through the client flow, but that's what the pending status means, is that they're neither here nor there. They haven't been approved, they haven't been sent to our document, to our client, or added to a document yet. So I'm just going to go back to the status of all. Now, a couple more things that you can do over here on before we even send this to the client. You can actually add a comment per item as you need to, that your client will see, that your client will be able to respond to, and we'll look at what that looks like actually on the client's end. So in order to access it, I'm simply going to zoom in here. When you hover over any of these images, you see a little comment box pop up. I'm going to click on the comment box. I'm currently logged in as Fred Salem. So by default, this is what I am commenting as, because this is my name associated with my login. And I can add a note here on an item by item basis for my client to see. So I can say, this is a fun alternative to your armchair. Thoughts? And post it. And now you'll see that I don't even need to hover over the item to see that there is now a comment attached to it. For example, on the items where there are no comments, there's no dialog box even shown. Here, I can do the same thing. This is also available in a lighter shade. If you are interested, post it. Cool. At this time, comments are not deletable. Again, if that's something that you want added, if you have ideas about how that could look, really our initial launch with the comments was to ensure that you guys are protected, that team members are not coming in deleting comments from clients, or that clients are not deleting their comments. We simply want to do it right. So we're open to your feedback. So again, if you have comments on comments, you can go ahead and enter that in the feedback document that I've added to the chat. Okay, so we got drag and drop, we got comments, we got how to edit client-facing details. And lastly, let's say I am more inclined to this pillow, still wanted to pre-allocate this pillow for the room board to start, but I don't necessarily need to confuse my client and show her all the options. So what I can do is click on the button with 3 dots and simply click Hide from Client. Internally, it's staying in this room. To our client, they won't see it unless we want them to see it. And that's important. If you have those services that are billable, that you want to take into consideration in the budget, add them and hide them. So maybe, or if you need to, you don't need to, obviously, you do whatever you want to do. Okay, so what I'm gonna do from here is a couple of things. So First and foremost, before we send this to our client, I want to show you one thing that you have the ability to do, which is viewing tear sheets directly from this room board. So I can simply click View Tear Sheets by clicking on the More button, View Tear Sheets. And you can see all of the items that are in the room right now are selectable. So I can either select the items which I want to show, or I can simply click Select All. And I can choose whether to show this with or without pricing. By default, it's off. Again, this is the ideation phase. Your pricing is probably just an estimate, but you can always choose to show it if you want to. And now you can click Create, and they're going to pop up in another window, which is going to load here in just a second. So that's the first thing. I love anytime you see a menu button with 3 dots, that means that there is some magic behind there and you can probably do more functionalities by clicking on that button. So you'll see over here on our tear sheets, the ones that we just created, some new features. Again, I know this is a Room Boards webinar, but I can't help myself in talking about new features. You now have the ability to see multiple images on tear sheets. Remember, we made these without pricing. So you'll see right over here, it's only showing the quantity and all of the different views. You'll also see on this client-facing document, the tear sheet, that only the client-facing title, the client title, and the client description are showing. All of those other details for this item are staying internally in Ivy. We will allocate it to all of your vendor-facing information and keep a record of it within the project itself. So now, what I'm going to do is show you 2 different ways that you can send this to the client. For those clients that might be too busy or don't want to be bombarded with emails, perhaps you have a special agreement with them, you can always share the client dashboard with them and publish items directly to the client dashboard without needing to send them an email. Every single time you change something, you send them something, you want them to review something. So let me show you how to do that first. You'll notice over here on my project where it says Fisher Penthouse, there are these 3 little link dots. And when I click on them, this will actually give me the ability to share my project dashboard with my client. This is a really great practice to do early on in a project. If you just want to be transparent with your client from the start, say, hey, here's your client dashboard. You can access it at any time. You can review your paid documents, your outstanding documents. That is the best way to do so. You can send it to them by email, or I want to just show you what it looks like. I'm going to click on Preview, and this is my client dashboard. I have a cover image here. They can see my outstanding documents. They can see anything that's been closed, review that. But what I want to show you is how we can send our room board to our client without actually sending to them by email. So the best way to do so is by clicking on the More button. Again, lots of fun things in the More button. And click Publish to Dashboard. When I select Publish to Dashboard, I have the ability to set what my client sees or doesn't see. However granular you want to be with your client at this point is up to you. Some designers are using this as an ideation, big picture, concept, ideas. What do you think about these items? Yes or no, we'll move forward with discussing pricing. Others are showing this as a visual representation of how their budget will be allocated. So you can select whether your client sees item pricing, yes or no. You can select whether your client sees the quantity, yes or no. That might be helpful if you're doing window treatments and you're charging by the by the yard, and there's like 36 yards. It might be confusing. And you also have the ability to give your client approve or decline capabilities. By clicking publish, you are making this now visible to your client. Can anyone guess where? That's right, on their client dashboard. What I'm gonna do is refresh my page here, and all of a sudden you see that there's a new section here that's called room boards. And I see my beautiful cover image. I can click into master bedroom, and now we are viewing what the client is viewing. If this is the first time your client is viewing this room board, there will actually be a spotlight on this item that says that brings the attention to being able to leave a comment. So that's really cool. I tested it out the other day. It simply just spotlights it and says, let your designer know what you think about this item by leaving a comment. But what you'll see here is I can see the comment. So now I'm viewing it as the client. Here's the comment that we just left a couple minutes ago. I can also see this one. This is the client view again. They can click on the items. They can scroll through them. They can see the description. And they can go ahead and leave comments as their own. And hopefully their comments will be something like, this is perfect, thanks, instead of going back and forth even further. Same thing here. I prefer the armchair we currently have. Perfect. Now, a couple more things that you could do. So on the client section, they have the ability to approve or decline each item. What I love about the room board is that it is a neutral approval. It is a neutral decline. It is in a neutral state. So your client is actively clicking to approve or decline each one. So for example, here, we could see why the client's declining it. They prefer the armchair that they have in place. They're gonna decline that one. However, this one looks perfect. Approved, 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 approved. Amazing. Super great client experience, easy to use, really intuitive. And if they have any comments, they can always leave them on top. But now I want to show you what this looks like back on your end. Coming into my room board, I can refresh this page. And you'll see that this document is updated in live time. So client declined it, we see it right over here. Client approved it, we see it right over here. We can see the comments that they've left. And now we'll see that our budget is also showing progress. The budget is only taking into account approved items. So remember when we talked about using a service but hiding it from the client as a metric of your budget? Well, this is where I would put it on you, and I would go ahead and approve the service maybe before you even send it to your client so that you can see the impact it has on your total budget for that room. Okay? So that is the first part. I know I've been talking a lot, but that's the first part. Where to add rooms, the default emails, how to set up your room, how to add items, attachments, what you can do with commenting, drag and drop, viewing tear sheets, publishing it to dashboard, and your client experience in general. So one thing that I want to just cover really quickly while we're on this page, and then I'm going to look at some questions that have come in. One thing that I want to point out is now this status and show tab, where you have the ability to filter down your own personal view on room boards to see perhaps only what has been approved. And you'll see now everything changes. I'm seeing exactly what makes up the $8,567 of my initial budget. I can see what's declined. It's only this item. I can see what is still pending. This is the one that is neither here nor there. It wasn't sent to the client. It's not on a document. It's hidden. And I can also see if anything is in process. Nothing is yet, because we'll talk about what's in process after the Q&A break. So with that, let me open it up to some questions that have come in. And by the way, if I don't get to your questions, feel free to email support@ivy.co. Feel free to email me. Feel free to look at our help center. We have a lot of different resources with room boards. We want to make sure that your questions are answered. And again, please take a look at that feedback form that I added to the comments, so that if you do have any questions, you can simply, or feedback, you can share them directly with our product team there. So Pam is asking, Pamela, if the products we clip can automatically be ready in the add products feed for room boards like they are in proposals and invoices. I love this question. So what you're referring to is the draft section of the product and service sidebar. That is definitely our next step. Hopefully in the coming weeks. I don't know what that timeline looks like. It is absolutely something we are working towards, is the ability to add, is to select from pre-allocated project items for room boards. So yes, that is definitely coming. A second step is we are also working on a complete redesign of our Ivy Clipper, as amazing as it is. But one of the ideas that I believe we are going to be implementing is the ability to add items from your clipper to a room directly, not just to a project. So that will be really cool. And that's for in a couple months' time. Let me see. Oh, okay, sorry. Some people were saying they don't have volume, and I hope that that has since been resolved. Zoe is asking, when you edit a product in the room board, does it edit in the product library too? I'm really happy you asked this question, but no, it does not. Anytime you add an item from your product library to a project, whether that's in a room board, proposal, invoice, or purchase order, any corresponding edits you make will not retroactively sync back to your product library. What you're essentially doing when you add it to a project is you're cloning that item and now making project-specific updates. So let's say, for example, we did change the storage bed for master bedroom title. What if that's went back to our product library, and now all of my other projects with that product were storage bed for master bedroom, but maybe it's allocated to a different room. Once an item is in the project itself, it is separated from the product library. Any edits you make to that product in the product library will not transfer over to the project version, and vice versa. And actually, Stacy, that was your question too. So I'm glad that that got answered. Shane is asking, can the markup percentage be automatically generated within the product screen on room boards? I think you might be referring to if we can add the markup calculator as we do in other screens. Great feedback. I would submit that on the Google form. Right now, it takes from wherever you initially added the product with that default markup. You can always edit it and override it, but we don't have that calculator on this button. But that's a great suggestion. Okay. Brooke is asking, in the future, can you filter by product category, i.e. all beds, etc.? I don't know that that would be something that we would implement, mostly because we're looking at statuses, but I absolutely encourage you to submit that feedback again, using that Google form to show a more granular, instead of just products or services, to show the product categories. Let's see. I'm just reading through this, so I don't mind the downtime. Okay, so Brooke is asking, if you're looking at the room board in a meeting with a client but are logged in as yourself, how can you assure they can't see the details you don't want them to see? Well, I would recommend doing exactly what we did with viewing the client dashboard, which is the share button right over there, and preview. So that when you are looking at the room board with your client, you are only looking at the client view, nothing else. This way you can guarantee no vendor, no markup, none of the hidden items that you want to show are listed. That's how I would always approach viewing things from your client dashboard when you're actually with your client. So you can do that really easily by, again, just clicking on this 3 button, click preview, and then you can access any published document, any published room board. That's my recommendation. Cheryl is asking, are room boards an alternative to proposals? I'm going to get to that in a second. For some, it certainly might be. I'm going to tell you why I think you should still create a proposal. But for some, it just depends on your workflow. Some people might go straight from the room board to the invoice. Up to you. We can talk a little bit more about that in a second. Stacy is asking, how can you customize the tear sheet footer? The tear sheet footer is actually from your account settings. So I'm going to just click on my account over here, and you'll see the company details. This is your address, state, city, zip code, etc. All of this will appear on all of your documents, not just tear sheets. So your proposals, invoices, purchase orders will all be branded with this information from your account settings. Sabrina is asking, does the client get an email invitation to the dashboard when they set up initially? No, you have to email them by simply clicking that share button, share project dashboard, and sending it to them. So they only get it if you want them to see it. Of course, if they access any published document from their email, from however you're sharing those published documents, they would then be able to go and view the project dashboard. But it's not as proactive as saying, here's your project dashboard, we're just getting started, you can see everything, it's up to you. Pam is asking, can they view all the images if they click on an item? I think we might have gone over this. I'm just going through the comments as they came in. But yes, if they click on an item with multiple images, they can see all the different views associated with it. So Sabrina, you're also asking about, can you group items together on the board as you can on invoices and proposals? Not at this time. If you have a group on a proposal and then you look at the room board for that group that it was made automatically, you're going to see the individual items. Again, open to your feedback on this. So please submit it, but not at this time. Pamela is asking, is it possible that the cover image and description create a cover page for the PDF document? I think you might be referring to a PDF document of the room board itself. That is certainly something that is in the works for, again, V2 of room boards, is the ability to download the room board itself as a PDF, but not necessarily as a cover image. Again, Pamela, love your feedback. Feel free to submit it directly to our product team on that Google Doc. Deborah will talk about proposal and room boards. Beth is asking, can the client see the budget? No, not at this time. The budget is internal only. So again, open your feedback. Should it be client facing as well? For now, it's an internal function, which also gives you the ability to take into account services ahead of sending it. Or maybe you have the more expensive option and the least expensive option, and then you could see what would work with the budget that you have. Megan is asking, can you clean the boards when things are declined and delete items? You can certainly delete items if you want to. My suggestion would be to simply change the view, because in my opinion, it's always good to have a record of everything that you've presented to your client. So you can always hide it from the client. Yes, you can delete it, but I think it's always good to have a record of it. Know that because when you have a million different items for so many different ongoing projects, it can be hard to remember, okay, they did decide that they didn't want the chairs. You have a record of it by keeping it in the status declined. Perfect. Okay, I'm just gonna go through, wow, we're already at 12:45. Perfect. Okay, I need to stop getting to comments even though there are so many questions. So just again, feedback, please submit. I want to just talk about a couple more things and then I'll try to wrap up with any questions. If anybody wants to stay a little bit after, I could probably stay 10 minutes after this is supposed to end, but we'll see. Okay, so moving on, proposals versus room boards. My suggestion is to go from room board to proposal. Why? Because if you go directly to an invoice, you guys who know me know I could talk about taxes forever. You know what I'm about to say, but Ivy works on accrual-based reporting, tax reporting. I'm not going to dive into details. You can look in our Help Center article for tax reporting on Ivy, help.ivy.co, to understand what I'm talking about. But basically, what that means is when you create an invoice, you owe taxes on that invoice in that tax period, whether that's quarterly, annual, whatever. I would only move to an invoice if these prices are final and if they are in stock and ready to order and not going to change, and if your client is going to pay you immediately. My suggestion would be to work from a proposal, because proposals are still accounting fluff. They don't mean anything to the IRS. They are your opportunity to change pricing. Let's say you got approval on the room board. Now it's time to send your RFQ to your vendor. Make sure it's in stock. Make sure the pricing is up to date. Maybe this is subject to change. Who knows? Get the shipping cost. Get all of those details as much as you can once the approval has been submitted. And my suggestion, collect payment on your proposal. So let's see that flow that I recommend. I'm going to click on more and convert to document. So what's really cool here, we've only worked on one room board in this project, but if I had other rooms with other items available, you would actually have the ability to select the items from other room boards and bring them into one document. So just as it says master bedroom, it would also say kitchen, living room, whatever it is. And you can only convert items that are approved or pending. You cannot convert anything that has been declined by default. So your first step is going to be to create new. I'm going to select create new proposal, and I'm going to bring over all of the items except for the pending one to my new proposal. And again, my rationale for going to a proposal, these prices are not yet finalized. I have no idea if they're in stock. I want to collect payment up front before I pay out my vendor and before I create an invoice, which will have tax implications. So create a new proposal and convert it. Now, for those of you that are asking, we got a lot of questions about, does a room board actually replace a proposal? I assume you are using proposals for the approval function. If that's the case, your version of working on proposals, yeah, sure. You don't need to do it that way. Instead, take my best practice, collect that money up front. Take as much money as you can from your client, because you never know who's going to go AWOL. You never know who's going to dip out, go MIA. I hear horror stories all the time, see them in our Facebook group. Protect yourself. Either take a retainer up front or just collect, never pay out your vendor before getting money from your client. So here's what the proposal looks like. It has all of the items approved from our room board. We can change anything, we can add anything here. As you guys know, you can pull from a product library, the services. I'm gonna keep it simple. All that I'm gonna do is add my estimated shipping cost here for these items. And, oh wow, that's probably more like 400. And want to show you one more thing. When we're talking about all the different places that you can allocate items to a room or that you can create rooms, this is one of them. Each line item over here is associated with the master bedroom because they came from the master bedroom room board. If you decide for some reason to change the room allocation, it will also remove the item from your room board of master bedroom and move it to your new room board. Any place you change the room allocation will also change the corresponding items placement in the room board. And this is another place where you can create a new room, is on the line item. Okay? Best practices, like I said, request a deposit. How much? 100%. Let's take 100% deposit up front. And let's save this proposal. So now what you're going to see on this proposal is it is a different view of the room board, right? It's all of the approved items. It's cleaner. It's not showing the declined items. And we want that money. We're collecting that money right now. Because in my dream world, you would get that money, you would send your RFQ to your vendor, you would confirm that items are in stock and pricing is finalized. And if not, you can update them here or on the final invoice. If you magically know the final price of the items on the room board phase and you're ready to collect payment or you already got a retainer, of course, you can go straight to an invoice. That process is up to you. This is only my best practice from what I understand of designers' needs and where they're losing money. So I would recommend go to a proposal next. Keep it clean, keep it simple. This is basically almost just a request for deposit rather than a proposal, you know? Okay. So now that we've created this document, I want to go back to the room board and show you just two more things. And then I will try to wrap up with taking as many questions, speed fire questions as I can. But I want to go back to the master bedroom because I want to show you two things that have now developed here. You'll notice beforehand when we saw the approved function and even here on the declined function, you have the ability to undo that. So let's say your client declines the installation. You're like, sorry, buddy, you actually need to pay for this. I'm going to undo it and approve it. As soon as this is converted to a document, that undo status is not possible. For all intents and purposes, this is now approved. And beyond that, you'll see this chain link button. And this chain link button means that it is now connected to a document. It is connected to this proposal and the status of this proposal is open. If I were to click on this, remember how previously everything was editable, right? We changed the client-facing title, we changed the description, we changed the cost, etc. What you'll notice now is those fields are locked because this item's status is now in process. It exists on a document, and any edits that you want to make from here on out need to be made directly on that document. So I want to show you what that status looks like here. I click on status, click on in process, and I'm only going to see the items that exist on a document. They all have the chain link button. They're all on the same document. I know that, but that's what you should know. Last thing I want to show you. If you guys know me, you know that I love the project tracker. I want to show you the project tracker because there are a couple new statuses here that I want you to pay attention to. The project tracker is your global view in spreadsheet format of everything going on across your projects, all items and services in your project, no matter the status. So when somebody asked if they can delete the items that were declined for to keep it clean, sure, you can, but then you're not going to have a record of it. My preference is to show over here, for example, in the project tracker, see that this was a declined item, and you'll even see that it's grayed out. You can also see the status of items. They're proposed. This one was a pending draft. It existed on our room board and hasn't moved anywhere else. It's just in the project. So those are a couple of new statuses. You'll see proposed. You'll see these corresponding statuses on the project tracker in a different way. Okay, so with that, again, I'm going to say it for like the 5th time. We want your feedback. Please feel free to submit feedback. I'm going to include it in the email where you can watch a replay of this after this airs. I'm going to include the link there for submitting your feedback. But please feel free. Our product team is eager to hear your thoughts. We are so excited about room boards. I want to just do a quick run-through overview, 2 minutes of all the things that we learned, and then I'm going to open it up for the last few minutes to questions. So first things first, start with a project. Here is where you can set rooms when you're creating your project, and where you can set project level room board emails. Going back into room boards, you can create new rooms directly here. When you create a room or when you edit a room, you can select the cover image, title, budget, description. Add items to a room just by clicking into it and click Add Items from your products and services library. Once you do that, you can simply, one moment, drag and drop the items. Fun. You can add comments. You can hide from client. And you can send it to your client by email or publish it directly from the dashboard or unpublish it. Create tear sheets and convert it to a document. Proposal, invoice, up to you. You know my recommendation is proposal. You know I want you to take that money up front on your proposal. It's up to you though, whatever you want to do. Let me open it up for the last few minutes of questions. I'm not going to be able to get to everyone's questions. There are a lot of questions here. If you have any remaining questions, I encourage you to actually go to help.ivy.co, look up room boards. You're going to see over here a huge how-to, bunch of different answers that you might have. This is probably the longest Help Center article we have, but it's super robust. I encourage you to take a look at it. To see what your to see if your question might be there if I don't get to it. Oh, Katie's asking, can you add your fees to the budget? That's a great question. Yes, absolutely. What I would do there is add your item, add your service, and this is especially helpful if you're charging a flat fee. Add your designer fee service. If you don't have one, just create one. Service title, designer fee, categorizes designer fee. Add your description and price. That's a great way to budget, taking into account the payment that you need to receive. Okay, 1 second. Okay, 1 second, I'm just going through these. Oh, great question, Nikoya. You're asking, how does it look like if you're emailing the room board instead of sharing the entire dashboard? I didn't show you that. Great question. You would click send to client and you'll see what it looks like, but you'll see over here, it sends it to the client email. You can BCC yourself or reply to. I would always recommend getting into the habit of BCCing yourself so that you have a record of what was sent to your client. And you'll see the default message that you set on the project level, and you can allow your client to see the item pricing, see item quantity, or approve or decline items. If you want to see what it looks like before you send it out, simply click preview, and this is showing you what it will look like on your client's end. Great question, completely forgot to go over that. Kelly's asking, is there a way to take a product to a PO to an invoice? No. You can't move items from room boards to a purchase order, only to a proposal or invoice. POs should be in the middle of your process because just think about what I was talking about earlier with best practices. Collect that money before you send it before you pay out your vendors. If you create a PO, you cannot link that to a proposal or an invoice. It's almost like a standalone document. However, if you create a proposal, you can easily convert that proposal to a purchase order. You can convert that proposal to an invoice. Cher is asking, how do you change the quantity on the room board per item? Easy, simply click on this item and scroll down and you'll see selling quantity. You can change that when it's in draft mode, meaning it hasn't yet been added to a document. Can you add fees to the budget? You asked that. Marissa's asking, how do you delete an item from a room board? Simply click on the 3 buttons over here and click delete. One thing that you will notice is you cannot delete an item once it exists on a document, once it's in process. So delete is grayed out there. I'm just looking through this, through all the questions. Okay. If you have feedback, again, I'm just reading through these as fast as I can. If you have feedback, please submit it with the Google form. Okay. Kathleen is asking, what makes something pending? Pending means that it hasn't yet been added to a document, nor has it been approved, nor has it been declined. So any items that you add to your project, that you allocate, whether they're draft items, they are items in the room board itself, those are thought of as pending until they have been approved, declined, or added to a document. So Sabrina is saying something about unapplied cash payments in QuickBooks. Yeah, that's true. When you create a proposal and take a payment on a proposal, it does sit as unapplied payments. As soon as you convert that proposal to an invoice, which inevitably you have to do in any course in the project, the payment is automatically applied in the invoice in QuickBooks as well. It's magic. So yes, we know how it looks, and that's done on purpose. I'm just reading through the questions. Sorry, guys, I just see people dropping off. Brooke is asking if I'm creating multiple room boards for the same room. Example, I usually show 5 or so choices for the same room. What's the best way to do this? Master bedroom 1, 2? Yeah, I would just say create different rooms. Master bedroom 1, master bedroom 2. However, if you're showing different options in terms of like a bed, you could always call these options bed option 1, bed option 2, bed option 3. But if you're creating actual boards, I would just give those titles: master bedroom 1, master bedroom 2. Pamela is asking for the project tracker, what kind of custom fields do you recommend in the tracker? Do you have any tricks? My custom field that I add is tracking number. And then I would also add an ordered custom field saying, has this been ordered? You know, what is like a status field essentially, beyond just the status of it's on a purchase order that's been paid, just a place that you can update the status. You can always, whatever you update in the 360 pop-up over here. For example, I'm going to scroll down. You'll see my tracking number field, which is a custom field, is automatically added here. If I get from my vendor the status, it's been shipped, I can always just update it on the 360 view and it will show up in my project tracker as well. Alicia, if I created a proposal already, can I go back and create a room board off of a proposal? Yeah, absolutely. You would just allocate and assign each item a room, and then the room board will automatically be created for you from the items on this proposal. Thank you, Petsy, for your kind words about my enthusiasm. The help website, Leah, is help.ivy.co. You can also access it from the support tab down here. You can simply click on one of the articles and it will take you directly to our help site. Specifically, just search for room boards and you'll see a lot of it. Perfect. Okay, guys, so we are done for the day. I hope that was helpful. Thank you so much for spending your Friday with me. I'm going to send out a recording to everybody who registered. Again, open to your feedback. Please submit it. Our product team wants to hear it. Thank you so much for your support and everything. We love you guys, and tune in soon for an upcoming webinar on another topic. Also open to your feedback on what you want to hear. So take care, have a great weekend, and we'll talk soon. Bye.